Texas, as the slogan goes, is a whole other country. Texas is the second largest state in the United States. It covers 266,807 square miles. It is located in the western hemisphere of North America, and within that, it is in the southwestern United States. In studying history, we must first ask geographical questions, because when you know the geography of a place, it helps you understand why people live the way they do and why certain events occurred in the area's history. In asking these questions, there are four main topics that must be addressed. The first element is relative location. This is location based on what is near a place. Next is absolute location, location based on latitude and longitude. Third is physical characteristics. These are landforms, climate, plants, and animals. And then finally are the human characteristics. This consists of languages, religions, music, politics, ways of life. And like we said, since these factors affect how people live, we need to look at the population of Texas. Texas is an ever-changing population. There are 26 million people living in Texas today. This population is growing, and it's growing faster than the population of the United States as a whole. This is also a multicultural population. People come from many countries and backgrounds to live in Texas. Lots of languages and cultures are represented here, which means that we must look at one big question when studying Texas history, and that is, what does it mean to be a Texan? A part of this also is, where do Texans live? The largest cities developed in the eastern part of the state: Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth area, San Antonio, Austin. All of these areas are on the eastern half of the United States and makes up for the majority of the Texas population. At the same time, though, as we move west, 12% of the Texas population lives in small rural areas. So despite these vast differences, all of the areas are linked by a massive transportation and communication network that then creates one common culture within Texas. Other side is the natural resources in Texas. The land has lots of geographic features and resources. There are areas such as plains, which are large areas of flat or nearly flat land, escarpments, which are a steep slope or cliff. There's plateaus, which are areas of high flat land, and mountains, such as the Davis Mountains and Guadalupe Mountains, of which Guadalupe Peak is the highest mountain in Texas at over 8,000 feet tall. Texas also makes a lot of money from its natural resources. We have a very rich soil which is used for agriculture. The Texas economy was originally built on agriculture, specifically around cotton, but others such as grapefruits, wheat, hay, and other products like that. In East Texas, the timber industry is a major economic industry. The Piney Woods region is one of the largest timber industry areas in the country. Texas also has a lot of livestock that get their food from the natural resources, from the land. Specifically, cattle is part of the image of Texas, but also goats and sheep. And then there's energy. Oil and natural gas have been major industries in Texas since 1901 and are still part of the Texas image. Also, water is a major resource in Texas. Water is essential for life, but it also provides drinking water, irrigation for crops, fishing, tourism, and other things such as factories need large water supplies. In Texas, we have many major rivers, but most of these are in the eastern half of the state. The largest cities in Texas are all located on these rivers. The rivers provided early transportation. They also provided water sources for these cities. So when we look at the eastern half, all of our major cities are on a large river. The Rio Grande is the longest river in Texas. It's over 1,900 miles long, with the Red River that is the second longest at 1,290 miles long, and the Red River serves as the boundary between Texas and Oklahoma. Other major rivers include the Brazos River, the Guadalupe, the Colorado River, the Trinity River, the Sabine River, which is part of the boundary between Texas and Louisiana, the Neches River, and the Pecos River. Texas is home to many, many lakes, but the majority of these lakes are what are known as reservoirs, which means they are man-made lakes, that dams were built on rivers to provide water, recreation, and also hydroelectric power. One lake, though, that is a natural lake is Caddo Lake in East Texas. It is the only major natural lake in Texas and is a major source for camping and hiking and fishing and is a very beautiful spot. Other sources of water for Texas come from aquifers. An aquifer is an underground water source. There are two main aquifers in Texas: the Edwards Aquifer, which is down in the Austin area, and the Ogallala Aquifer, which is in Lubbock. These aquifers, though, have dramatically and drastically been affected by human usage over the years. All right, now Texas's climate is the next factor. The climate is going to affect, again, how people live and is going to influence history. And our climate is affected by our location. It's both absolute and relative location. Texas's absolute location, as we said, is determined by our latitude and longitude, which is our distance from the sun, and that's going to affect the seasons. Texas is at a mid-latitudes, which means we're about halfway from the equator to the North Pole. This means that Texas has mild winters. Also, since Texas is physically so big, the climate differs from the north to the south, from area to area throughout the state. Our relative location is what we're close to, and the biggest thing that we're close to is the Gulf of Mexico. This means that the coastal and eastern parts of the state are going to be more wet. The source of most of the rain Texas receives comes from the Gulf of Mexico. Meanwhile, relative location in West Texas in the Panhandle, it is in the rain shadow of the Rocky Mountains. Little rain falls in this area. It is a very dry, desert-like climate. Also, Texas's elevation goes from sea level to several thousand feet above sea level. One of the things you see with this is that every 1,000 feet an area is above sea level, the temperature will drop 3 degrees. Rainfall is also affected by elevation. Warm air holds more water. As it cools, it drops its rain, so the warmer air along the coast will be heavy with rain. As it moves inland, it will drop its rain, and the further west you get an area of less rainfall. Texas is also affected by extreme weather. There are 4 main types of extreme weather. The first one is known as a norther. This is an extremely cold blast of air, sometimes called a blue norther, and is a part of the lore of Texas culture. In a norther, temperatures can drop 50 degrees or more in an hour. Another major form or extreme form of weather are tornadoes. The Panhandle of Texas is part of a region known as Tornado Alley, and roughly 132 tornadoes touch down in Texas annually, many of them causing much damage. Hurricanes occur in late summer to mid-fall, which is officially known as hurricane season. In hurricanes, you have high winds, destructive rain, winds over 100 miles an hour. Warm waters during hurricane season in the Gulf of Mexico are going to create these large, dangerous storms. One of the more famous ones was the Galveston hurricane of 1900, where over 6,000 people died, and more recently, Hurricane Harvey, which hit the Houston area. And then finally, the last major extreme weather form that's going to influence Texas and will have an impact on Texas history are dust storms. These are especially strong in the West, where there's more agriculture. As the crops are plowed, the ground gets torn up, and then when it's dry and the winds blow, you will get these massive dust storms, most famously seen in the Dust Bowl of the 1930s during the Great Depression. But with all this, this is an overview of Texas geography, of natural Texas, and it is this foundation that is going to influence how people live and influence Texas history.